Hello and welcome to today's webinar, Experience Matters, Critical for AWP Success, Why Experience Matters for Software, presented by Andrew Foy of O3 Solutions. So first up, before we get started, I'd like to draw everybody's attention to an event we're hosting in a couple weeks in Houston. It is the AWP Exchange, where we invite a select group of EPCs, owners, and partners to discuss the challenges of digital transformation and advanced work packaging, as well as the solutions to solve it and the software to support it. So if you are interested in joining us for this one-day high-value event, please email us or check out our website. We have plenty of information there. You can request an invitation. So the agenda for today, we'll start off with a safety moment. I'm going to introduce Andrew, and then he is going to introduce you to O3 Solutions if you are not familiar. And then he's going to hit today's topic, why experience matters, key takeaways, and then you'll have an opportunity to ask us any questions. So with that in mind, please submit them via the GoToWebinar panel. We will address them at the end, and then I'll provide you with some information where you can go learn more. So today's safety moment is on data breaches. RISK risk is a simple and easy to remember acronym of cybersecurity best practices. So R means run updates, regularly update your phone. Your phone is programmed to alert you when software updates are unavailable. Delaying or ignoring updates can make your device more vulnerable to attacks. So always make sure you hit those updates when your phone prompts you. And then I, initiate connections, avoid automatically connecting to anything via Wi-Fi or Bluetooth, etc. And then S, simplify browsing. Don't visit unfamiliar sites or download questionable content. And then K, keep passwords secure. Always safeguard passwords by updating them regularly, diversifying them across accounts, and increasing complexity. Just a couple stats to keep in mind. 155.8 million individuals were affected by data exposures in 2020. 1 in 4 mobile apps include at least one high-risk security flaw. So something to always keep in mind, that your phone is just as important to data breaches. So with that, I'm going to introduce today's speaker. Welcome, Andrew. He is the VP of AWP and Construction. He's got over 16 years experience in industrial construction. He's got 6 years dedicated AWP implementation experience for a range of owner organizations. He has many roles on CII, including the AWP Performance and Benchmarking Chair. He's the principal author of the CII Leading Practice, AWP and Engineering, as well as the Scaffolding JWG editor. He has more than enough experience to speak to today's topic. So thank you for joining us, Andrew. With that, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you very much, Tori. Evidently, I also had fewer grey hairs in that photo. We'll have to get that one updated. So first up, who is O3? So O3 is the market-leading software for advanced work packaging and agile project management. O3 was the first of the modern wave of AWP solutions. So 10, 15 years ago, you had a couple of solutions that had to be installed on your machine, very sort of old-fashioned type now by modern standards. Those have now gone away, and O3 was the first of the new wave of modern cloud-based solutions. We are set up to manage all range of project sizes and types, anything from small cap to mega projects, multiple different industries, and we run all over the world. Typically, we work predominantly in the energy sector. Obviously, AWP came from oil and gas, so a lot of our work is still in the oil and gas industry. We see a growing breadth of industries that are applying AWP. It's now getting into things like mining, manufacturing, nuclear. It's starting to get traction in many, many other places. So we are set up to be able to support your AWP needs, whether you're doing a small job, a large job, anything from small brownfield portfolio work all the way up to $70 billion type of projects, and whatever industry you're in, as long as you're applying AWP principles to it. As I say, O3 has been around for a number of years. We are the first of those modern solutions. So what you get with O3 is the best of both worlds. You get a modern solution, cloud-based, the latest setup and architecture, but you also get that married with a lot of experience and a lot of history. So we've been doing this on more than 550 projects for a range of clients all over the world. We've worked with dozens of owners, EPCs, contractors, and critically, we've had more than 20,000 people use this tool. So it's very, very well tried and tested, and that's what we'll get into in more detail here shortly. So what we're going to talk about today is, why does that experience matter? Why do we make the point of saying, here's how many projects we've done, here's how many years we've been doing this, here's how many people have been in the software? What's in it for you? Why does that matter? So how does this help you? Firstly, and we'll get into each of these in more detail, we're going to cover lessons learned, user feedback, familiarity with a different broad spectrum of things like integrations with other software, different clients, different methods of execution. Another interesting one, obviously, these days, especially as it relates to our safety topic, data security, making sure your data is safe. On the software side, we tend to look at the technology, but we also have to understand the effort that goes into setting up and putting that technology in place. So we'll look at the reduction in implementation time and then case studies. So let's have a look at these one by one. There was a wonderful quote many years ago from a Prussian general that said, "No plan survives first contact with the enemy." But I think Mike Tyson actually had a very, very good update to it where he says everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. So when we talk about lessons learned and user feedback, this is an understanding, particularly from our side, that we don't have all the answers. And this has been a very, very deliberate thing right from when the company was first formed 8 years ago. We know we don't know everything. We listen very well because we work with and for a lot of smart people who've got a lot of experience and executed a lot of projects. So we're able to garner a lot of that feedback from people. We have our own development track. We have our own plan as to the development we're going to have for this software, but only about 50% of our development work is from our roadmap. The other 50% of it comes from feedback that we get from people. When we get users sending us messages or calling up or sending emails saying, "Hey, it would be great if it could do this," or I'd really love to be able to do this. And what it means is we have a team of developers, which is this big, but our team of ideas people is huge. So that 20,000 users that I was talking about earlier, a large number of those people have had input into the tool because they know how to do their job and they're always looking for ways to make it better. The benefit then for us is O3 operates on what's referred to as a single code branch. So instead of having, like you might see on other software, version 16.2, and these people are using 16.2, and these people are using 16.4, and somebody else is still back on 15.3 or whatever, because we are a hosted solution and a single code branch, everybody is operating on the single platform. So what that means is all of our different clients are using the same version of O3, and it gets updated every 2 weeks, which is absolutely unsurpassed in this industry. So instead of ideas taking us months and months and months to come to fruition, we can turn things around very, very quickly, and we update the software every 2 weeks. So each of our clients, everybody has their own site, everybody's data is secure, but everybody's working on the same version of O3. So what this means is if we get a good idea from one client, we develop it, and that gets rolled out to everybody. So each client that provides us with ideas and feedback, incorporate those into the software and provide all of that to everybody that's using it. What this means is project to project, client to client, we have no waste, no loss, and no what I always refer to as brain drain. The biggest problem I've always seen with lessons learned and feedback on any project, and anybody who's been in the capital project industry, lessons learned are a task that you sit down at the end of the project and somebody types into a spreadsheet, and then that spreadsheet gets filed away and nobody ever does anything with it. It's useless if you don't do anything with it. By doing it this way, by doing it the way that O3 does it, we can immediately roll those lessons into the development of the software and nothing gets lost. There's no waste at all in terms of that feedback. Okay, So that's lessons learned. Now let's talk about the data integrations. O3 as an AWP software needs to sit in the middle of what you're doing on your project, as does AWP as a process. It does not exist in a vacuum. This AWP cannot work if it's siloed. So the technology mirrors the process in this regard. So, for example, you will have most people use P6 for their software for the schedule. You'll have a 3D model. You'll have a document management system, a materials management system, an accounting system. You'll use something for your spool files for generating your detailed your detailed spool files, your Tekla files for your structural steel, for example. All of these things in separate applications. And what happens is you need to have a tool and a system that can pull it all together and bind it into a cohesive unit. Now, from a process standpoint, that is one of the things that AWP is supposed to do. So we as well need to be able to do that. One of the benefits we have is because we are just that software for AWP, we can be entirely agnostic about the tool that you are using for all these other things. So on the model side, for example, we can consume 70 different model formats. So quite frankly, as long as you didn't build it in your basement, chances are we can incorporate that and pull it in. And then any of these other tools, material management, completion software, timesheet systems, anything like that, we can pull in and incorporate all that data together. So what that means is when your planner is sitting down and trying to build a package, instead of saying, okay, I'm building a piping package. So now I have to go and check my emails to find the report from the fabricator that says, here's what's been fabricated. I need to go and check the log from engineering to see the status of all of these drawings to see if they're all IFC. I need to check the material report to find out if the valves shipped and if they're on site. I need to check the 3D model to see if the engineers have even finished modeling it. I need to understand all these different points before I can realistically, cohesively build a package. But if you do it with O3, because we've integrated with all those other systems, everything's in one place. So I can literally ask the model, okay, show me by color what materials I have. So the stuff that's green, that means it's on site and ready to go. Do I have the drawings? Again, if it's green, it's ready to go. I can build packages meaningfully and intelligently by combining all this data. So what it means is your data to support AWP will give us an indication of where you are on your maturity journey. So the I would love to say that every job we do, the data is perfect. That's almost never the case. Every job we do, the data that we get from all of these various sources is typically different, and it comes in a range of completeness, a range of accuracy. Sometimes we are very much papering over the cracks. But what it means is we have a lot of experience with being able to pull in partial data, incomplete data, less than perfect data, and combine it all together in such a way that we can give you the best value for all of that data that you have. So you need a software that's going to meet you where you are and be able to give you as much value as you can from the data to take you to that next level of AWP planning. Another one that we talk about in terms of the broad spectrum here is geography. Not all projects are the same. So the way of doing things, the way of do AWP, when somebody says in a contract, do AWP on this project, that might mean something different in the Middle East than, the oil sands in Canada or South America or Australia. Or, every one of these regions will have a slightly different take on it. So when we talk about the criticality of experience, it partly comes down to having the experience of doing this in different places in the world with people who take a different approach to AWP. The core tenets tend to remain the same, but the day to day just the process side of things can vary wildly from project to project. Some of our clients are experts in AWP and have an exact understanding of how they want to do it. Some will come to us and say, this is our first time doing AWP, so we need your help. So we need to have the ability and the experience to be able to say, if you know exactly what you're doing, we'll just set you up the way you want. And if you don't, here's the experience that we've gained from more than 550 projects doing it all across the world in different time zones, different cultures, etc. Security, as Tori was mentioning during the safety moment, security is incredibly important these days, especially for cloud-based solutions. So essentially, your data is being hosted outside of your network. So whoever is in control of your data and whoever is in control of your technology systems will want to make very, very, very sure that your information is being treated with the right level of security and sensitivity. So to that end, what we have done is we've got ourselves to the highest level of security for the industry. So we are SOC 2 Type 2 compliant, and we also have breach lock certification to protect against penetration testing, or to protect against vulnerabilities that one assesses through penetration testing. So what this means is your data is entirely safe in our system. We've gone through very, very extensive reviews and security checks with some of the biggest names in the industry because people want to make absolutely certain that their data is safe. So when you talk about what are the benefits of experience, if this is the first time a contractor is working with you or with your data, you want to make sure that they've got the necessary setup and experience that they can guarantee you that your data will be safe. We mentioned at the beginning when we were talking about the technology side that it's not just a question of the technology, but there's also a people and process element to this. So we run what we refer to as a smart start implementation. So that implementation is intended to get you set up using the software and show you how the software works, perform the integrations with the other tools, and give you the training that you need to be self-sufficient. So typically the way this works is on the first implementation that we do with a new client, we'll walk you through it step by step. There's a lot of clients throwing data at us and our people getting in and pulling it in and putting it into their system. Then over time, we can start to show you and transfer to you the knowledge of how to do that setup. So maybe project one, we do the full implementation and you watch what we're doing. Project two, you start to have more involvement. Project three, you start to take over. And by the time we get to projects 4 and 5, you become, or your people become, the primary initiators of the setup, and our role reduces and reduces. The value of that to you is you know you're going to have the necessary support in the first time out. And if you never get comfortable, if you never have the people to set it up, and if you don't want to do it for yourselves, we just keep doing it for you. But for our clients who want to take over, who want to take ownership of that process, we can transfer that knowledge and that information to you so that you can take it on for yourselves. We have some clients now who simply email us and say, we've started a new project. That's it. Because they do the setup themselves, they turn on a new project, and all we see is a new project in the database. So again, this partly relates to the data support. So we've seen everything from perfect to terrible and everything in between. So what you get with the O3 implementation team is that expertise from those hundreds of projects. Instead of scrambling around in the dark, you know you're going to have people behind you who have seen it and done it before. Whatever you throw at us, however good or bad it is, chances are we've seen it before. And then we can coach you. So if there are data issues, if there's concerns, if there's things that need to change and improve, we can coach you through those, show you how to set up your model or your schedule or your document management so that it's more aligned with AWP processes, and then train you up on how to take over those implementations for yourself. Best case scenario, you get to the point where you've got all the control of this in house, and all you do is spin up a new project, copy and paste the settings from the last project that you did, and get started. It can be as simple as that. Case studies. Nobody really wants to be the guinea pig. Nobody wants to be, well, very few people are comfortable being the first one out the gate on anything. Most people typically want to see somebody else go and do it first and say, yes, we survived, and yes, it was good, and it worked, and it did what it said, etc. Before they'll sort of jump on, if you like. The good news is AWP now has been around for 20 years, and this AWP technology has been around for, in our case, almost a decade now. So you are not going to be anybody's guinea pig. Others have done this before. We have numerous case studies, and I've included a little snapshot here of some of the case studies that are available on our website or on our YouTube page. There's a link at the bottom. Take a look at these case studies. You can see from this others have blazed the trail. Use them for your business case. So when your manager says to you, why are we going to do AWP? Because it works, and here's what happens, and here's the benefits we can get from this. Well, how do you know? There's a case study. It showed that somebody else did exactly what we're going to do, and that here's the results that they get. The best case studies are the ones that have a clear scope, a process, and a definitive outcome. So if you can show something that says somebody else wanted to introduce integrated AWP for beginners, or reduce the time for processing RFIs, or create work packages across disciplines, click on it, watch the video, see the results, and whatever it is that you're pitching to your management as the justification for using AWP could be supported by those case studies. What it also means is you're hearing it from somebody else, not from me, not from us. It's not O3 says this because they're trying to sell software. It's people who've actually done it and used it are telling us that it works. That's also, for example, like we mentioned at the beginning, our AWP Exchange event next month in Houston. Come along, listen to the people who are using the software. Most of the time, the people talking at the front will not be O3 people. They'll be clients, they'll be partners showing how this works and why it works. And if you can hear that from somebody who's independent, somebody who's done it and experienced it, gone through the good and the bad and learned the lessons and got the experience, by the time you get around to doing it, you can enjoy the benefits of that without repeating any mistakes that they may have made. The other thing that the case studies bring for us is the benefit of something like a business case. So I would love to say that everybody does AWP because they just know in their heart of heart that it's the right way of doing things. Unfortunately, well, no, just realistically, most people need to know the money aspect. There's always I always get that image of Jerry Maguire, show me the money. Um, and that's what you would see with a business case. So we want to do AWP. There is a cost of doing AWP. You need to have people to build the packages. You need to have decent software to do it. But the intent is that the saving vastly outweighs the cost. So what we've done is we've created the return on investment tool. The one on the left that you'll see there is the one that O3 created with its client base a number of years ago to show the various areas of benefit and saving that you can get from using AWP. And our tool here on the left looks at if you are implementing AWP but without using software versus not doing AWP at all. And then the second layer of if you're implementing AWP and using the O3 technology. And what you'll find is, I mean, even in this example, the ROI for this one without the AWP software is something like almost 11 ROI. But with AWP software, that goes up to over 50. So the intent is for every dollar you spend, you want to know what you're going to get back. We also chaired the team for CII that translated this then into a return on investment calculator for the CII community. So what you'll see on the right-hand side is one of the screens from that very simple sort of Excel version that we created for CII. And in this case, it shows in the blue column, here's our cost, here's our saving, therefore the return on investment, the delta between those two, what our actual saving is totally of savings versus cost. is the orange column on the right-hand side. And in this case, it's showing, this is a fairly low number, but it's showing you can save up to 2.5% of your TIC on the highest end if you're using the highest levels of AWP implementation. As shown in the CII research, you can save up to 10% of the TIC of your project. Okay, so what if you don't bother with experience? What if you ignore everything I'm telling you today and just go with something because you think it looks fun or it's shiny or whatever? What could go wrong if you're using something that doesn't have that 550 projects and almost 8 years of experience? So first one is failure to launch. Can't get it working. That means we started this thinking we could get it, and we never got it off the ground. It never ever got to the point where it said it could do what it was going to do. Or you end up with the second one, base functionality only. So what you've got is, yeah, okay, we were successful in doing this, this, and this, but we couldn't do all the other things that we said we were going to do. So we've technically checked the box, but really all we've done is given ourselves a fancy computer system in place of a single spreadsheet. It's not really able to do what we need. We also see issues with a lot of these, especially with these newer technologies or with clients trying to build their own, of rework in engineering. So I can't get my technology to receive your engineering information. So I go back to engineering and say, you have to change what you're doing to support my technology. Very, very bad answer. Paying engineering to have to change things to support the technology simply means the technology isn't working. So if you have a solution like O3, you can take the engineering data that you have and maximize the value from it without having to get engineering to keep spinning their wheels. Always, if you're developing something, you're going to have lots of hours lost to testing and feedback. Here, right, whatever it is, we built it, we fixed it. Here, try this. Okay, so I go away and I try it, and no, it still doesn't work. Or you fix that problem, but there's another problem. You're always playing whack-a-mole. So in the end, you spend a lot of time spinning your wheels at a time when you should be executing projects. You're tying up resources within your company, trying to push back and say, no, change this, change this, change this. And the development takes a long time, right? We didn't invent O3 overnight. We didn't get to the point where we've got with all of this development, with a new release of the software every 2 weeks. That didn't happen overnight. It's a process. It takes time. That to get to the point where you've got as much sophistication and data as we have takes time and takes a lot of energy. And if you don't have this, you could very, very easily get to the point of having an unimpressed client. I told you, yes, I was going to do AWP on your job. Yeah, don't worry, we've got this new software. It'll be great. Everything's wonderful. And if it doesn't work, client very, very quickly unimpressed. And lastly, and a very, very dangerous option these days, data breach. Right? If you have got a solution that's not been properly tried and tested, how do you know that your data is going to be safe? Which, again, goes back to that previous unimpressed client. So, what are the warning signs? What are the things to look out for? I'm telling you that experience matters. Quite honestly, most people are probably going to sit in front of you and say, yeah, we've got a lot of experience. Yeah, we've done a lot. Rah, 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 rah. So, some of the things to look out for when you're talking to people. What I call all glitz and no show. So, when we're showing you the software, all we're showing you is PowerPoint presentations or pre-recorded videos with stock images. If I'm not seeing the software itself, if you can't show me the software, I'm concerned, right? If all you're showing me is stock videos and PowerPoint presentations, then I don't believe that the software can actually do what it says. So if you've got canned demos with scrub data, all I've got is a very simple data set, and I'm just holding on to this because I know all the data is perfect, but I can't do anything else with anything else. Again, big concern. Vague or misleading answers. Ask specific and detailed questions and get a straight answer. Can it do this? Yes, no. If the answer takes longer than the question, chances are they're just walking you around the houses. One of the big ones, proof of concept. So if you're working with a company who is reluctant to do a proof of concept, that is the answer in and of itself. If I don't agree to do a proof of concept, chances are I do not believe what I'm saying the software can do. Promises of development. I've already said we do a new release of the software every 2 weeks. We have a lot of good development time around. And yet, if all you hear during the demo is, well, it doesn't do that today, but it'll do it next week, or it doesn't do that today, but we'll work on it for you, or if you give us the purchase order, I'm sure we can get it done for you. If you hear that once or twice, it's a good development cycle. If you hear that a dozen times in a 2-hour meeting, they're not paying attention. They're not really giving you what you're asking for. And then my personal favorite, anything that involves the phrase "trust me," because that just makes me think of somebody trying to sell me double glazing. So we talked about proof of concept. What is a proof of concept? A proof of concept is where you don't just take my word for it. You give us your data. What's that wonderful expression? Trust but verify, right? I'm telling you it does this, 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 and this. Okay. I've shown you in my presentation to you that it can do that using this data set that we have, because obviously it's our data set. Now give me your data. Make me show you that it works. All right? Give me your 3D model, your unit rates, your documents, drawings, vendor data, a copy of your schedule, your materials, your fabrication information, whatever it is, throw it all at us and say, if your thing can do what you say it can do, you won't have a problem with everything I'm giving you here. Define the criteria for success. If you successfully do this, for us to consider that this POC has been successful, we must be able to A, view our data in your system, B, be able to build work packages from it, C, list out what those criteria for success are, agree a timeline, agree a scope, a schedule, agree what you're trying to achieve from this, but make them turn it around. Make us turn it around. Make us prove it to you. Don't take my word for it. And then one thing that we will be pushing for with anything like this is, okay, if we are successful in this, what are the next steps? If you're just asking me to do this and then you're just going to walk away and say, oh, well, that was helpful, thanks very much, we might come back to you in a couple of years' time, that's no good for you, it's no good for me. But if we can say, here's the scope of this proof of concept, here's the definition of success, and if we are successful here, we will move on to the next stages. And the next stage is obviously the intent to be a first project. But that proof of concept, especially if it's the first time you're working with a new vendor, can be incredibly important. Then one of the questions we get very frequently, can I just build it for myself? Yeah, absolutely. You can go and build yourself an AWP software. I wouldn't recommend it though. So many have tried, all have failed. I think I've seen in the years and years that I've been doing this, one company that actually had AWP software that they developed in-house that was reasonably up to standard. And even that, I think, is start going away now. Otherwise, everybody else tends to have an expensive failure. This isn't just creating a Power BI dashboard. There is a lot of work involved in this. There is a huge investment to get to this stage, to get to the point where you have a very, very solid AWP platform, is millions of dollars of investment. You need to get a huge array of people involved. As I said 20 minutes ago, AWP sits in the middle of everything you do. You need engineers, you need procurement people, you need your model experts, you need your fabricators. You need a huge number of people involved, and all of those people, if you're trying to develop it yourself, are being pulled away from something else that they should be doing. You've got a huge amount of resources that go into this. So you've got development, testing, feedback, trial, rollout. All of the people that are involved in doing that should be doing other things, and at the same time, you're paying for developers to try and put all this together. So, and the really, really fun part then is at the end of this, you've spent millions developing this, and what you have is a product that you use, only you use. So you have no commercial model for recovering your costs except on projects that you execute. So you would have to create a brilliant solution in order to then have it work well enough and for long enough that your clients would pay you to be able to use it on their projects. Quite frankly, I've never ever seen it as a commercially viable solution. So to illustrate, if you do it yourself, you are going to be spending a huge amount of money and a huge amount of time, a huge amount of resources, scoping it, developing it, testing it, updating it, trialing it, updating it again, user acceptance testing, rolling it out, training people on it, getting everybody up to speed on how it works. And even then, at any of these stages, you're going to get people coming back to you and saying, that's not how I would have done it. By the time you get to user acceptance testing or rolling it out to your workplace planners, all of a sudden your planners are there saying, well, this doesn't work. I wouldn't have done it this way. I want it to do this, that, and the other. So you end up doing a huge number of recycle loops. And that's why this takes years and costs a lot of money. Whereas with a vendor solution, you have to figure out, so you have to do your vendor selection process, figure out which vendor to go with. Then you have to configure it, set it up how you want it. Implementation, get the integration with your other tools, get it set up to work, training, and go. So the costs are far, far less, and the time frame is far, far less. So we have got people who have tried to build it themselves. Most of the time, you end up with a glorified spreadsheet, and that, quite honestly, is not AWP. So when you're talking about going out and finding a solution, how do I know what to look for? The best RFPs, RFQs, RF, whatever the terminology that you use, the best requests that we get are the ones that involve and include a technical specification. And by that, what we mean is, I know what I want and I'm listing it out for you. And it can be very, very detailed. It can be incredibly long. I've seen these up to sort of 600 to 1,000 bullet points in some cases. And it can be things as simple as, or as foundational as, I must be able to zoom in and out of the model. I must be able to select a pipe by ISO or by spool. These kind of really granular things are all going to be important for you to be able to define to the vendor what you want. Because if you say, I want AWP software, do you have AWP software? The answer you will get from 20 different vendors is, yep, we do that, absolutely. Whereas if you have a list of 20 things, that 20 vendor map that you had in the beginning, if you say, right, it must be able to do these 15 or 30 things, those 20 vendors will suddenly become 10. And when you say it must be able to do this, this, and this, it must have, experience and security and lessons learned and bi-weekly rollouts and all of this, your list will get refined. So what I'm saying is there is huge value to you in knowing what you want, listing it out, detailing it out into a specification, and making the vendor then prove point by point, line by line, can it do this? Can it do this? Can it do this? Today, not tomorrow, not maybe if we go and develop it for you. Can it do this today? So there's a link here to our AWP implementation toolkit. One of the things in there is a technical specification, which lists for AWP software, here are the kind of things that you need it to be able to do. So it's a list of hundreds of items that say it must be able to do this, 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 and this. It's I should say quite high level. There's a lot of detail to it, but you can expand it further. You can shrink it up to make it required for what you want. But there's a free version right on our website. You're welcome to go and use it and use that as the basis for your assessments. Okay, so what have we learned today while we've been talking? Using a vendor with experience of other projects, other companies, markets, countries, all of those broad brushstrokes can immediately accelerate your AWP journey. So if I take on something that's been used by hundreds of other companies or thousands of other people, and I've got the benefits of those lessons learned, when I sit down to start my AWP journey, I'm already riding on their coattails. I'm already getting the benefit from a lot of what they've done. So their AWP journey would necessarily have been quite slow and laborious, but because I'm using that same software, I can jump straight up to a higher level much, much quicker. You're not having to develop a lot of the processes. The AWP best practices are already baked in. Incorporating those lessons learned and that feedback into a product like O3 gets you that combined wisdom. You didn't have to do all 550 of those projects and make mistakes and learn lessons and remember to have feedback sessions and all of that. It's already been done for you. All of those lessons learned have been rolled in and incorporated. So by the time you get to it, you're essentially executing project number 551, for example, albeit this is maybe the first time that your company has been doing it or has been doing it with AWP software. And lastly, trust but verify. Everyone will say that they can do it. Make them prove it. And I say that as somebody that you should be having that conversation with. Make me show you it can do it. Best way is with a proof of concept. Do not accept a glitzy sales presentation. Throw your data at somebody. Make them prove to you that it can work. Do not sign on a dotted line without being sure that it's going to do what you need it to do. Okay, sorry, where are we at? Do we have any questions? That's the end of the presentation.
Yes, thank you, Andrew. Just a few questions here to go over. First up, can innovations in AI be a replacement for experience?
um, maybe at some point in the future, but not yet. I mean, a lot of what's going on with AI is, you know, training the system to understand what we're looking for and how we're trying to optimize our processes. So, from an AWP technology standpoint, no, we still need to tell the computer what it is that we want. And that experience, that what do we want comes from experience. So AI, do not get me wrong, AI is going to change the way we do everything over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. But right now, for example, if you put me in a room with a construction manager who's been working at a site for 30 years and put me in a room with an AI bot and say to both of them, build me a path to construction for this project, which one would I trust? I would still trust the 30-year professional construction person because they've got that experience. We will get to the point where we train AI to know, the optimum path of construction, the optimum sequence, the optimum schedule, give performance feedback and loop all that in so our estimates are better and all of these things. That is coming. That will come. But we're not there today. And certainly in terms of the current AWP technology, it's a work in progress, but it's not here yet by any stretch.
Great. So next question, if we have our own tool for AWP, how long should we consider its lifespan?
um, Good question. I would say at most a year, honestly, because most people's we have our own tool for AWP is a glorified spreadsheet or some access database that somebody built. It is not intended to be a full version. I mean, realistically, what you're going to be going up against is you're going to be bidding on contractor, for example. You're going to be bidding on jobs for owner organizations who have stipulations about AWP, and you're going to be bidding against other companies who have AWP technology like O3. So if I'm sitting in the owner chair, which I used to do, and if I've got contractors coming to me saying, yes, let's say we've got 4 bidders, and they say, yes, we do AWP, I'm not just going to take your word on it. I'm going to make you show me. And if one of them says we've got this sophisticated database tool that's custom designed for AWP and it's been built by the market leading software provider, et cetera, great, fantastic, get on with it. If somebody else comes and says, yeah, we've got this access database that somebody built in the basement of our building, that's going to greatly limit your ability to win the work from an AWP perspective. So AWP internal AWP solutions can be something that you use as a short-term papering over the cracks, but consider the words short-term very, very seriously.
Okay. Next question. What are some of the most important lessons learned from your projects?
Oy. Um, Start. I mean, I think probably the easiest one. People always worry about when should I do it, or am I there, or how to get going on their journey. The whole nature of AWP being this maturity journey that we talk about, the whole point of a journey, you have to start. So wherever you're at, whatever stage you're at, there is a next layer and a next layer and a next layer that you can add. So I would always say the first and most important lesson with AWP in general is just start. And then from that, don't try to run before you can walk. A lot of our clients, for example, they don't start with their first project trying to solve all the problems of the world. They will specify, say, for example, on the first project, we're just going to do workplace planning. We're just going to do IWPs. Maybe we'll just do pipe and steel. And then from there, we'll expand backwards. We'll get into starting to pull that back into the engineering phases, going through sort of path of construction, getting engineering involved in that sequencing. And so working through that process and getting yourself to the point where you have a solid enough platform that you're building and building and building. So treat every step as gap analysis. I'm here. There's another layer here. What do I need to do to get to there? Put the process in place to get to there. And then the next step and the next step and the next step. So start the journey, but always consider it a journey.
Okay, last question. In terms of locations, is AWP growing in popularity across the world?
Yeah, absolutely. So as you saw from the map, for example, we're seeing there's been a significant uptick in Europe. We're seeing a whole community of practice and a lot more interest now in the last couple of years in South America. There's a great proliferation of AWP in South America in general. Um, we're seeing great acceleration of it just in the last 12 months, really, in the Middle East. Certain of the key players in the Middle East, and I can leave that sentence hanging, are now insisting on AWP. So when you've got some of the largest companies in the Middle East saying you shall do AWP on your projects, that kicks through the process very, very quickly. So a lot of the companies that we deal with, whether it's owner organizations or EPCs, are multinational. So it may be, it came from Canada, it developed more in the US, but it being pulled into other disciplines, other areas, other industries, other locations, it's going to become business as usual. It's going to become very quickly, why are you not doing it rather than why are you doing it? So yes, we're seeing a great global proliferation of it. And it means that, we're now talking to people in pretty much every time zone around the world.
Okay, excellent. Well, that is all of the questions we have for today. So I will prompt y'all to check out some other resources we have available to continue learning and understanding AWP and O3 and all of our solutions we have to offer. You can contact us directly, email here at info@o3.solutions. You can visit our website, www.o3.solutions, for a variety of information and resources such as free case studies, past webinars. We have a video library with a multitude of videos on our solution suite, as well as just industry topics and challenges and how you can overcome them. You can always connect with us on social media and subscribe to our monthly newsletter. That way, you are always up to date with what we are doing and the latest news. So, with that, I will thank y'all for joining us today. Thank you to Andrew for presenting, and we hope to see you next time.